Hello everyone. In this video I will be showing you the basics of farming in Minecraft. The main farming tool is a hoe, which allows you to till dirt into farmland. Tilled dirt is required in order to plant seeds. Here you can see you just right-click your hoe on dirt and it will till it into farmland. And if you sprint or jump on the dirt, or if any mobs do, it will revert back into dirt. You can also see there is darker tilled dirt, which is indicating that it is saturated by water, and it can be saturated up to 4 blocks away, on that level and the level below. This will not work for the level above, and any unsaturated tilled dirt will revert back into dirt eventually, and any crops that are planted on it won't grow as fast. Plants are also sensitive to light, so if a plant that requires light is stuck in a dark room, it will eventually just pop out of the ground and not grow. If you notice seeds popping out of the ground like this, then make sure to light up the area with torches, or just farm outside where the sun can get it during the day. The first plant is wheat. If you plant wheat seeds, it will eventually grow into wheat. You can see there are several stages of growth, starting from freshly planted to fully grown, and when you break the fully grown crop, you get wheat and seeds back. You can also use bone meal on any of these first few plants in order to accelerate the growth. To get the seeds in the first place, you simply need to break tall grass, and you'll notice that eventually you get seeds. The next crop is beetroot, which similarly grows from beetroot seeds. Beetroot seeds can be found in villages, where they are grown naturally. The next crop is carrots, which are their own seeds. So that means you can just plant a carrot in the ground, and it'll grow into even more carrots. You can find carrots in villages, just like the beetroot, or if you kill zombies enough, they eventually can drop carrots. The next crop is potatoes, which are their own seeds, just like carrots, can be found in villages and dropped by zombies, just like carrots, but they can also yield a poisonous potato every now and again. Don't eat these. The next crop is melons. Melon seeds will eventually grow into stalks, which can then grow melons next to them. Only the dirt that the stalk itself is growing on needs to be tilled. Where the melons grow, it doesn't really matter. And then you just break the melon in order to harvest it. And if you want the seeds, you simply craft the melon into melon seeds. You can also find melon seeds as loot inside chests, and melons grow naturally in jungles. The next crop is pumpkin, which works just like melons, where the stalk grows and the pumpkin grows next to it on dirt. You harvest the pumpkin by breaking it, and you can craft the pumpkin into seeds as well. Pumpkins can be found growing naturally, and their seeds can also be found in loot chests. Next up is sugarcane, or reeds. They can grow on sand or dirt as long as it's next to a block of water or a block of flowing water. They can grow up to 3 high, and so you really only need to plant 1 sugarcane down next to the water, and eventually you'll have plenty of sugarcane. Crafting the sugarcane turns it directly into sugar. Then there are cacti, which grow on sand and do not require water. They will also grow up to 3 high, but they cannot grow adjacent to any other blocks, so if you tried to plant them next to a wall or next to any other cactus, it simply won't work. Touching a cactus will also hurt the player, or any other mobs. If any dropped item happens to touch a cactus, it will also be destroyed, so be very careful when you're farming these. The next crop is mushrooms, of which there are both brown and red, and they can only grow in dark areas, so trying to plant them out in the daylight simply won't work. The exception is if they grow on mycelium, which is a kind of dirt block, but it has the roots of mushrooms on the top of it. Mycelium can be found in mushroom biomes. And you can also grow the red and brown mushrooms to be super tall if you use bone meal on them. The next crop is the only nether crop. It's called netherwort. It grows on soul sand, which can only be found in the nether, and it will also grow faster in the nether than it will in the overworld. It works kind of like carrots and potatoes, where you break the full crop and it'll give you back multiple of the smaller crop, which can just be planted as seeds of itself. The next plant comes from the end. It is called chorus. It can be planted on endstone, which is only from the end, as the chorus flower, and it can yield chorus fruit. You simply need to plant a chorus flower on endstone, and eventually it will grow. The next plants are trees, the first being the oak tree. To plant a tree, you simply plant a sapling on the ground anywhere on dirt, and eventually it will grow up into a tree. You can use bone meal on this to accelerate it, and you can use an axe to chop it down. Once it's chopped down, the leaves will start to decay, which will eventually drop the drops of the tree, which in most cases is saplings. You can also punch the leaves if you don't want to wait, and it will still drop the drops. The oak tree is nice because it also drops apples, a fruit which you can eat. Unfortunately, it can grow in a very large variety, which is harder to chop down. The next tree is spruce, which can also be planted as a sapling, and looks like this. Then there's birch, which looks like this, and it's sapling like this. And birch always grows short enough that you can chop it down from the ground, so they're probably the easiest to farm. Then there are jungle trees, which come in two varieties, the first being a short, normal tree, and the second being a 2x2, very tall tree, which can also grow vines on it. These grow naturally, and you can also make your own by planting a 2x2 of saplings and letting them grow. Jungle trees, or jungle wood, rather, can also grow cocoa beans on them, which simply need to be planted and grown kind of like a crop. Vines can grow on the sides of any solid block and will even grow below where there is air, and they can be climbed up kind of like a ladder, except if there's no block behind it then it won't work. If you want to harvest these, then you need shears, and you simply break the vines with shears. Vines grow downwards and sometimes off to the sides. The next tree is acacia, which can grow kind of diagonally with its branches, which makes it look a little funny, but otherwise there's not much special to it. The last tree is dark oak, which only grows in the large 2x2 version, and can also drop apples just like normal oak. Now we'll move on to livestock. The first animal will be the pig. Pigs are interested in beetroot and carrots, so if you hold them in your hand, they'll start to follow you around. If you feed 2 adult pigs, then they will procreate and make a baby pig. You can also put a saddle on pigs and ride them around. If you use a carrot on a stick, then you can actually control where they go, and if you right-click with the carrot on a stick, it will feed a little bit of the carrot and they'll start to go faster. Killing a pig will return the saddle if it was wearing one, and it will also drop raw pork chop. The next animal is a sheep. Sheeps can be sheared for their wool, and they can even be dyed different colors to yield different colored wool, and they can be bred together using wheat. Sheep will also just eat grass, which whenever they're babies will help them to grow up to be an adult faster, and when they're adults it will return their wool. Killing a sheep yields less wool than if it was sheared, but will also yield raw mutton. The next animal is a cow. Cows can be bred with wheat, like sheep, And you can also right-click an empty bucket on them to milk. Killing cows will yield raw beef, and, if you're lucky, leather. The next animal is a mushroom, which is essentially a cow with mushrooms on it. You can breed them with wheat, just like cows. You can milk them with an empty bucket to get milk, just like a cow. And you can milk them with a wooden bowl in order to get mushrooms too. You can also shear the mushroom, which will yield some mushrooms, and it will turn the mushroom into a normal cow. If you kill it, it will drop raw beef and leather, just like cows do. The next animal is a chicken. Chickens are interested in any kind of seed and will follow you around with them, and can be bred with these as well. Chickens will also periodically lay eggs every 5 to 10 minutes, which will just be left on the ground like so. You can throw these eggs, and there will be a 1 in 256 chance of it spawning 4 chicks, and a 1 in 8 chance of spawning 1 chick. Killing a chicken can yield raw chicken and feathers. The next animal is a wolf, which spawns in forest and taiga biomes. The wild wolf will hunt down sheep and skeletons, naturally, by becoming a hostile wolf, and hostile wolves will also attack players if the player attacks them. You can tame a wolf by feeding it bones. You can right-click it to tell it to follow or sit, and if the player gets attacked, the wolf will attack the attacker, but it will not attack the owner. You can notice that as it takes damage, its tail's angle goes down. In order to heal it, you could feed it meat, and the angle of the tail will go back up. Once fully healed, any extra meat will also cause it to want to breed. Puppies will also belong to the owner of the wolves. You can notice that there's a collar on the tamed wolves, which can actually be dyed simply by right-clicking a dye on the dogs. Killing a wolf does not yield anything but experience. And sadness. The next animal is an ocelot. Wild ocelots spawn in jungle biomes, and they can be tamed through a very difficult taming procedure where if you're within 10 blocks and holding raw fish, they might start begging for that fish and come to you. But if you make any sudden turns or sudden movements, it will be scared and run away. Once tame, it can become one of 3 different kinds of cats, and you can tell it to sit or follow you, just like the dogs. You can breed ocelots together using raw fish to produce kittens. Ocelots will hunt chickens, and creepers are scared of ocelots, so they're very good to have around the base if you want to keep away creepers. Like wolves, killing ocelots will not drop anything but experience, and even more sadness. Horses are perhaps the most complicated of livestock. You can feed them in order to help them grow faster into adults, and you can also feed them once they're adults to encourage them to be more likely to break. Breaking a horse is similar to taming, except you right-click and ride the horse, and eventually it will decide that it likes you. Otherwise, it just makes angry sounds and kicks you off. Once tame, you can open up your inventory while you're on the horse, and you can equip a saddle, or you can simply right-click the horse and equip the saddle from there. Once saddled, then you can actually control the direction of the horse, and holding space will also allow you to jump. Different horses have different speeds and jump heights and health, so it is important when you're breeding them to breed together your best horses. To breed them, you simply need to feed them golden carrots. Horses can come in many different color varieties as well, and eventually you can also get a donkey. Donkeys are very much like horses, and if you breed a donkey and a horse together, you will get a mule. Mules are nice because you can actually attach chests to them, and they will be packing mules. You can also equip horse armor onto horses in order to protect them from damage. Killing horses will always yield a saddle or armor if they were wearing any, and also has a chance of dropping leather. The next animal is rabbits, whose skins depend on which biome they are in, and they are often hunted by wolves, so it's harder to find them in taigas and forests. They will follow you and breed with carrots, and when killed will drop raw rabbit meat, and also have a chance of dropping rabbit hide. The next animal is a polar bear. Polar bears, as you would expect, spawn in very icy, cold biomes, and they are generally neutral, but if they are near a cub and you become near them, then they will be very angry at you and will attack the player. They will also attack you if you attack them first, but cubs are always passive. Killing a polar bear can also yield raw fish. Note that polar bears swim much faster than players do in the water, so trying to run away from them in the water is a very bad idea. You can also get fish by casting a fishing rod into water and waiting for a fish to bite and tug it down, and then right-click to reel in. You can get normal fish, clownfish, pufferfish, and salmon this way. Fishing can also yield loot sometimes, so it's actually a pretty good farming method. The last animal of interest is the squid. The squid does not do well on land, as you would imagine, but when killed it can drop ink sacs. In the water they can actually swim around, and they will survive. They cannot be bred, and they do not drop any meat. All foods will restore a certain amount of hunger and a certain amount of saturation. Saturation is kind of the extra hunger that determines how long it will be before the next time you're hungry. Some foods will also cause other side effects, some good, some bad, that you should be aware of. Here is a list of all of the edible foods in Minecraft.